I have to start recording right now because that's the best. That's the best Bryan Callen I've ever done. I'm nailing it right now.
Oh my God, that's good.
Pull it off during the podcast, but let me say this. God, I'm handsome. What I really want to do is kill all the fat people. That's what we're going to do. We're going to kill the chunks. Too bad chunk and kill isn't alliteration. They're both hard C's. One's a hard C. One's a ch.
Can I go grab my camera?
Believe it or not, in an alternate universe, I crush that. I had it going. John had a different Callen going. And then his Callen surpassed my Callen. No, it did. It's one of those moments I started to get really annoyed when John's...
Frankie, come on. We don't have to worry about that. We both have big cocks.
Oh, let me just say this.
No,
Callen, cock.
Listen to me, you barrel-faced man.
What's funny is a lot of times people would talk over each other on Zoom and it would be painful. But right now, it was destroying.
Great.
Yeah, it's nonstop. Once you start, you can't stop. I bet you could do a good one, Scott, because you've got the natural rasp.
Yeah, you're close.
Yeah, but I don't know if I could do it. I'm not as cool as you guys. And
you're cool. Better. Trust me.
Here's the problem that I'm having with the theme we've had lately. Everybody is like in incredible shape that and none of them seem like they like to eat. Like Todd McFarlane doesn't eat. Remember how he said that? And then Callen, he's in great shape, and Shaq's in the best shape he's been in a long time.
Wait, Shaq is not in great shape. That one
Well,
I think it was just his background. I think it was...
I mean, considering he's in A shape, I guess he's right.
A giant globular unit.
Just a massive man, a barrel-shaped human being with the legs of a leopard.
Are we supposed to be in good shape after this? I didn't think we were. I thought that was part of the fun.
I'm always riding. I have a bike underneath my chair.
I'm more Professor Xavier.
No, I was looking at one of those news stories, and I'm like, I believe I've gained all of Adele's weight during this pandemic. I feel like I've gained 15 pounds. I look in the mirror. It's depressing.
There's the fresh 15 and the COVID-19.
Yeah, I know. I don't know.
I started getting a little out of hand. And I got on the scale and I'm like, I'm not doing my regular workouts like normal. And it's been 8 pounds fast. So over the last week and a half, I've cut back about 11.
You've cut back 11 pounds by doing what? Just eating less?
No, I'm like boxing stuff and biking. But I went through, like over the weekend, I didn't do much. I boxed a little bit. I didn't have much work, but I mean.
Are you training somewhere now? Are you able to?
Doing it at the house.
With Megan?
Yeah, I just kicked the shit out of her for 15 rounds. I do it.
Listen, if you're not going to bring me that Dr. Pepper on time.
I mean, I'm almost out now, and I don't have anybody here.
Wait a second. Is that Diet Coke? I want a Diet Dr. Pepper.
Well, it's because the woman of the house hasn't gone to the store. We've got problems.
I spent a part of today helping Joey clean his room and trying not to see too much stuff. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's just
jerk off stuff. You mean?
I don't know. Could be 15-year-old me. I don't want my dad in my room
ever.
No.
Toledo found plates and stuff under his kid's bed, like dish.
I'm going to tell you right now. There was silverware, paper plates, empty water bottles, empty soda bottles.
It's a thing, John.
I guess. I don't remember. I remember being really messy, but I never put dishes under stuff. Like this, maybe a dish would be on my nightstand or my dresser or something. Never hidden. Like my clothes just piled up. I just had laundry for fucking piles of laundry.
Joey doesn't get towels laundered. He just has towel after towel after towel, and then he doesn't have any towels. So I went into his room. I said, all right, because he always wears the robe around. He does the hef robe. the Jedi hef. And
Okay, how long has this been going on, Frank? I didn't
the
know
robe
this about
thing?
you. The
That's
robe.
so
No.
Italian.
Oh, you didn't know about that? Yeah, he's
No, it
Joey's
seems
so
crazy.
Italian. He's Joey Salvatore Caliendo.
Hey,
Right?
who needs the fucking pants when I got a robe covering up all the important shit anyway? Get off my ass.
He's been doing the robe thing for years. Friends would be over. His friends would be over, and he would be outside in a robe. He just doesn't get dressed. Michelle just got really mad at him for not getting dressed today. So I'm like, go get dressed. You have to get dressed. It is annoying. I'm siding with her on this. Go get dressed. So I open up his door, and I'm like, okay, I close the door so he can get dressed. But I come back 5 minutes later, he's still not dressed. I'm like, why are you not dressed? He said, I can't find any clean clothes. I'm like, well, I'll get you something. But you have to wear something, and you have to get moving. You can't just be walking around in circles in your room, not picking anything up and not getting clothed.
Robe.
So
Can I defend his genetic makeup a little bit in regards to Frank? When I first met you, there were times we would be at the Improv, and you would be wearing pajama pants.
Oh, yeah.
A pair of clogs that looked like there's a hole in them from a lawnmower accident that you told me about, and you'd always wear a Mad TV swag shirt, and that was basically your get up.
Right. So the Mad TV shirt was because I hoped someday Bryan Callen would be on this podcast. He was in the original cast. No, I was always trying to promote Mad TV, which I was barely on. The pajama pants were just easy. People thought they were Zubas. And I'm like, no, I'm way cooler than that. And so I had the pajama pants that were comfortable, and the clogs, I just didn't like to bend down and put my shoes on. That's pretty simple.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it was a weed whacker accident that was probably the issue, because I still have the scar on my my ankle. What was that?
The weed whacker incidents are. White kids across the world know about the dad made you use that weed whacker for the first time. You about cut your feet off. Every time. I've got 2 scars on my ankles from weed whackers. Terrible, terrible product.
Wait, so 2 different times?
No, same one. It sliced across one leg, and as I moved it over, I cut up my other. It went right across my legs. Cut them both up.
Did you have different sounds for each? Oh!
I think I literally said, "Oh, come on!" after the second one.
Do you think Michael Winslow even turns on his weed whacker, or he just walks down the street making the noise? I mean,
the
I
weed
would feel
just fall off.
Yeah.
I get the feeling. Have you ever had him in the studio, John?
Oh, yeah.
I get the feeling he's a guy who would go places and do his sounds. Like he would be at the dentist office going.
Yeah. He likes to do that, but he's also very. He's a strange bird.
Yeah.
Like, strange.
Very odd man. And in a nice way, nothing in a bad way, like a really super nice guy.
Yes.
But it's just different than anyone else. He doesn't talk to you. His brain's not doing what normal brains do.
So
There's a sounds going on.
Does he maybe talk about flying on pterodactyls or?
No. He would find Bill Walton odd, and he's up until he was a top 5 strangest guy until then.
Bryan Callen. No, Jose.
I'm bringing him in.
I thought it was Jose coming, and there's Bryan.
Oh, geez, look
Hello,
at him.
Bryan.
The boys.
Coming.
You know what's great, John?
What's
Callen
that?
has the worst Callen impression.
His Callen doesn't even sound like Callen.
You guys are amazing.
Let me
We
ask you
are.
this, Bryan.
Yeah.
I heard.
What are you
got a-
drinking?
Let me just tell you this. The other day, I
Yeah.
was in my colossal estate
Yeah, of course.
known as California. It's
Damn
all
right.
me.
That's
And I
all
was
me.
attacked by the coronavirus, but I blocked and countered with Callen 19.
You goddamn right. You goddamn right. What are you been bugging my fucking house or what? My house. But a couple things you guys should know. A couple things you should know. Number one, I'm drinking my shade-grown coffee. It's a strong roast. It's a strong roast. I use the AeroPress. A lot of guys will push it down. They use the French press. Not the kid. The kid lets it just filter through. Brings out the sweetness in the coffee berry, and it is a berry. And then I use a little artisan grass-fed raw milk because I like the lactase in it. It keeps the milk sweet. So I'm sipping on something sweet. The other thing I'm doing is I always have a sheath knife with me. Yeah. In case I got to take out a sentry who's guarding a fort, or in case I got a little something for you. I keep them in my belt, and I say things like this. I go, you want to dance? I got a little something for you. So anyway, I want to start this whole thing that way.
Now, the Bryan Callen I know didn't need organic milk. He used his own.
You're goddamn right I did. By the way, is this a good angle for you? Do you guys need me to split my iPad?
You look good.
I don't think there is a bad angle.
Yeah.
God damn it, that was the right answer. Now I have a boner. What are we going to do with that, guys?
I'm just thinking about, like, I wanted to ask the most vague questions, like, what's it like? You mean being perfect?
Yeah.
Exactly. What's it like living this close to the bone? That's my favorite shit. You know, Callen, he lives so close to the bone, bro. I mean, some people can't help but be heroic, I guess.
Are you still doing the podcast, Bryan, from your house? Or are you guys back in the you guys all were doing the testing on Rogan's thing and got yelled at?
Hey, bro, I've been in studio. I broke all the rules. I'm underground. I'm outlaw as fuck. I'll punch Corona in its goddamn throat. You know what I'm saying? So I got that going.
Corona has no ground game.
It's got no ground game. I take it to the ground. What then? Been brushing up on my jui-jitsu, by the way, in case you guys are wondering.
Hey, could you pronounce that again? No, wait, could you pronounce that again?
Well, jiu-jitsu, when the fight goes to the ground, it's jiu-jitsu all the way. But I haven't trained Muay Thai in a long time, but jiu-jitsu is my secret garden. Now you guys know I'm a judoka, a Greco player, do a lot of freestyle. Frank, sorry, that's wrestling terminology. But I've been working my 2-on-1s, my underhooks, and my collar ties.
Do I remember seeing you fight with Stallone or Sugar Ray Leonard?
Sugar was showing me how to go to the body. He was showing me how to go to the body because I had the guts to ask him, to tell him that every time I try to go to the body, I get caught in the face. Can you give me some pointers? So he took his time with a 53-year-old actor who will never be in a fight and certainly never be in a ring competing, and told me how to go to the body. And
but Stallone's standing behind you, right? Going, that's pretty good.
Stallone was standing in the shot. He was he was between us, and he was watching, and it was so surreal at his house.
Why are the three of you in that spot?
Well, because whenever Sly has the fights, the kid gets an invite. You know what I mean?
Did you ever think to go to Sugar Ray Leonard and go, I don't do sugar? Like you ask him, show me how to go to the body. Wait a second.
Well, he had the best. He was chipping. He and Michael Strahan, they were chipping balls. Stallone's got this little outdoor kind of place, and they were chipping balls onto the green in his backyard, in his palatial backyard. And this was after Bill Burr was with. It was me, Bill Burr, and Sly. And Bill said, "You've done all right. You've done all right." And I said to Sly, I go, "You've been relevant for 40 years." And he goes, "I guess I have, huh?" And so after we had a laugh like three men. Oh, and then a guy named Al Pacino, for your younger listeners, they don't know who that is. He came out.
That was at the same place. Weren't you watching? I thought I saw you watching a movie, you were watching the fight with Pacino. And Arnold's like,
it's all crazy. Arnold shows up. He's like, "Oh, these criminals! I'm not going to sit here. These criminals." But Sugar's so cool that he was chipping really beautifully, and Strahan too. And I was like, they're both amazing athletes, and all you want to do is be friends with both of them. And I said to Sugar Ray, one of the greatest boxers of all time, I said, "You play golf?" And he said, "I participate." It was so beautiful. So when people ask me if I street fight, if I do MMA, if I fuck, I say things like, "I participate."
Wait a second. You're borrowing from Sugar Ray Leonard on that answer?
Goddamn right I am.
What's the secret to going to the body as a 53-year-old man?
Look, man, it's not about punching. It's where you punch from, John. You know this. You got to take a step. But the problem is you don't just take a step. You got to create a diversionary tactic. Maybe I throw a jab in your face. Maybe I throw a left hook and touch your glove. I pin your glove, and I'm stepping at the same time. And then set. This is the noise I make, Frank, when I box, when I punch. Set. And it's not the same as when I play tennis. Hey, that's hey. I over my top spin, my forehand. Do me a favor, both of you. Do me a favor. Don't step on a tennis court with me, obviously, and of course, never. And if you do, and you want to return my serve or my forehand, you guys are in Arizona, right? Yeah. So if you play me in Arizona and you want to return my top spin, you want to return my forehand or my serve, be somewhere in Louisiana. Okay? Be somewhere in Louisiana, because that's how high my ball bounces.
Wait a second. I remember you telling me that you were going to play me in ping pong, and you're like, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to destroy you. And then we played, and I was like, wait a second. Here's a participant ribbon.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I'll give that to you. That was a bullshit game, though, because you brought your own fucking paddle. And, you've got a lot of...
What do you use on the tennis court? You just a rental?
I bring my own racket, but with ping pong, you can't be a guy who owns his own bowling ball, his own pool cue, or his own ping pong paddle. It's not fair. And you're doing subversive bullshit, un-American tricks. You're cutting the ball and doing all this stuff that you obviously learned in Wuhan. And so you can take your ping pong and your Corona and leave my country.
He likes good old-fashioned, straightforward ping pong. None of this slicey cutty. Hit it like a man to another man.
John, that's exactly what I say. I go, you don't start hitting that ball flat, we're going to have a problem, son. Because this is America. And in America, we hit the ball flat. And I'm seeing too much of a slice and a cut.
We play our tennis on the ground, not on the table.
On the fucking ground.
I played state in tennis. I made it to state in tennis. I know you don't know who I am, Callen, but I'm just going to tell you, I played
I'm impressed.
In high school tennis. Here's the caveat. It was in Iowa, which is basically
it's
not
wrestling country.
State in tennis. Right. Yeah.
It's wrestling country. But I cannot believe my intro to you was I played state. You know who you look like? Michael Rooker, the actor right now.
I'll take it. Yeah, he's a good
person.
He's always good.
He's a good guy.
No. John figured this out a couple episodes ago.
Oh, that does not feel.
Take off your glasses. Take off your glasses.
Watch this, Brian. It's amazing. It's healthy Haley Joel Osment.
You know what? You're probably right about that.
I'm going to go with Rooker. I like Rooker. The kid is right. You guys are wrong. Just going to put that out. Kid's right.
I like your attitude, pal. So you probably have a lot of questions for me. Shoot.
No, we're out. That's it. That's all we wanted to do.
Covered your tennis career.
We wanted to find out a couple of things. We wanted to figure out how you drank your coffee, how you put that together. We wanted to find out a little bit about Sugar Ray Leonard. How did that all come about where you're even friends with all those guys at Sly Stallone's house? Because you're affiliated with fighting?
Daughters, his young daughters come to the Laugh Factory and watch stand-up. I started talking to them. They were just lovely gals. I didn't know. Okay. And then she said to him, my dad does that. He's an actor. I said, who's your dad? She goes, my dad's Sylvester Stallone. And I went, well, he's a legend. So don't just say it like that. Don't just say it like that, of course. And then I got up and I sang karaoke. I have a beautiful voice, as both of you know. And I was crooning and birds were landing on my shoulders, as they often do, even in the night. And they got behind me and began to do backup. And they don't have good voices, but I love them for having very little vanity in a town that demands so much. So then they invited me to fight night because, well, I'm starstruck. And at one point I was standing in a circle with Arnold and Al Pacino and Stallone, and they were trading stories. And I was just going back, I looked like I was watching a ping pong match because I was listening to them with a big smile. And Bill Burr walks up behind me and goes, "You've been here over an hour. Get over it." and I haven't. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Now the picture I saw had Arnold in the background looking not so happy. And your caption was that maybe he recognized you and that was why, because you'd done the Arnold impression and stuff like that? I meant, was that just for fun, or was there really
he
something
didn't.
to
He
that?
definitely knows not who I am. He does not know who I am. But I did have dinner with him, with John Leguizamo, when I was shooting a movie called Ride Along in Atlanta. And it was just me, John Leguizamo, Arnold, and his assistant. And I had read a book on California politics by Michael Lewis called Boomerang. And I had a lot to talk to him about. So we actually had a great conversation.
About what? What do you talk to? How do you bring that up?
About how little power a governor actually has.
Right.
About how, whenever you talk to people who are real politicians and you hear the inner machinations of local politics and how you get things done, you realize that whenever you talk about politics as a civilian like us, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. It's always very humbling. It's like anything else. Anytime you get into a conversation about something with somebody who does it, so it can be a SEAL Team 6 guy or whatever. My buddy Andy Stumpf loves to ask me, he shows me video or movies of fight scenes where soldiers are doing things. And he says, now what's wrong with this? And I'm always like, I don't know, he's laying cover, and then he'll tell me that I'm a tactical asshole and this is why. So, when you get into the details of anything, when you get to the level of detail and you're trying to solve a problem, you realize that many of your opinions are just that. They're opinions, they're attitudes, they're not thoughts. So it's always humbling.
But what did you find? You're talking to him about even trying to get something passed through legislation, all the deals that have to be made.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, he told a story about water. He said there's plenty of water. We just have to allocate it to the farmers. There's different people we can just take the water you're not using and bring it over here. And these Republican senators came to his office and said, well, hold on. The problem is I can't tell my constituents that they're going to lose water. I won't get reelected. That sounds like weakness. So what you're going to do is make a speech about it, and then we're not going to pass it. But you'll look good doing it, and we'll just create a lot of noise around it and act like we're doing something, but nothing will happen. That's politics. And, people who know Sacramento or Chicago, well, they'll tell you these things. It's going to be very hard for you, sir, as a Republican governor or whoever you might be, to get anything done, depending on who the supermajority is. And in California, it's Democrats. In other states, it's Republicans. And, so it's very interesting. But when you get into local politics, I mean, good luck. You've got major interests who are contributing way more money than you or any of your friends ever could. And so what happens is when Congress is in session, what they're talking about is not what people like you and I need. What they're talking about is the swipe fees that banks are charging us every time we put our ATM card into a goddamn machine, because that's where the money comes from. If you're a congressman, you spend 40 to 60, even 70% of your time, and I'm not kidding about that number, it's been well documented, across the street. You can't do it on government grounds. So you get in your car across the street from the Capitol and you call people all day and assure them that you'll vote, their way. That's politics, man. And
that's what, when Jesse Ventura was on my show, he said something similar. It's the first thing he learned when he got into real big politics was each party is the same. They throw red herrings constantly, so we bicker and then go make private deals on the side. And he said, I had to learn how to play that game properly in order to get the things I needed done. And you can't do anything, like you said, like the people can bitch all they want, but until he figured out how to play the game, he couldn't even get into the minutia. It was all humongous stuff that he had to try to just move forward.
That's right. So we would all be very different if we were serious about politics. You play ball. Your ideology and your ideas. And, in some ways, the founding fathers wanted government to move very slowly. That's not a bad thing to have cumbersome, inefficient government. Because if things move too quickly, this is where the House and the Senate come in. I mean, you can't have a direct line from the people who become very hot and I suppose very what's the word? Trendy. This is the new thing. Let's pass all these laws. Well, the Senate's there. The wise men are there to say no. And then judicial's there to say, and then the executive's there to veto it. So you need all these checks and balances, and you need these conflicting interests. You know, it's like whenever when you make laws, it's like making sausage. It's very messy. My worry about politics today is that there's just too much money in politics. You know, I don't know if we're off topic here with this podcast. I might be boring all your listeners.
I like it.
Yeah, but Citizens United.
If you could just throw every once in a while, if you could just throw in my cock.
Yeah, I was going to show you. I'm going to take my pants off in a second and show you guys what I'm working with, because that's the good news. So that's the good news. So,
and every time you feel like you've gone off topic, just say, I have to come, and then do it.
Yeah, well, no, I don't do that. I just go, I won. That's what I do. I won.
Here's my Citizens United sound. Oh.
Yep. This guy's getting quite the belly on him. That's what I say.
We all have Callen. Like, we all have a thing we wish we could Callen when we ejaculate, because mine used to be, and it wasn't even you, but it's turned into you now. It's like, I give you life. That's what I always wanted to say.
Yeah, I say this. I say, here comes the baby batter. Let's not waste it. So I say stuff like that. Yeah, disgusting. What kind of podcast is this?
Here's mine. Here's mine. Done.
Done.
You're welcome.
No, you say dust. I'm old. Sorry.
Thanks for joining us. We'll be right back.
You're welcome.
That's for you. Wrap it.
This is for you.
Anyway,
all that
discussion.
Citizens United. Just we had a break for. It was like an action movie.
Break.
It's an action movie where we had a little bit of comedic relief. Now we're back.
That's right. It's right. Me holding my peace like a dead carp.
It's like when somebody cries during a documentary. Like, can we take a break?
Can we take a little cock break, guys? It's getting a little thick.
Hey guys, I'm going to give my dead carp some air. Is that, does he call his dick a dead carp? Well, look at him. He's all heavy and fucking
that cock
lazy.
Is 4% body fat.
Yeah, this guy's got a diamond-shaped piss hole. Look at him. And then you have somebody throwing up in the corner as I'm talking. You always have to have my assistant. My assistant is just ralphing in the corner as I pull out my dead car. Anyway.
Citizens United.
What were we talking about? Oh, yeah. We're talking about special interests. Fuck, man. And you guys lead me down this road to hell here, and I apologize to your listeners for all of it.
No.
Well, I want to hear about Citizens United. You talk about too much money in politics.
Yeah, I mean, there's Citizens United said that really there was, if you look it up, it used to be there was a cap on, essentially you can spend as much money as you want on an election, depending on if you're a super PAC or whatever it might be. And there's just too much money. When you're a politician, you're going to vote the way, for the most part, your largest donors want you to vote. It's human nature. It's not even that they're corrupt necessarily or bad people. It's just that you feel obligated to people when they help you out.
It's like working a ref in a basketball game, right? The coach works the ref. So the ref wants to essentially be liked. So you work the ref over, and then they'll give you some calls just, out of instinct. It's not even trying to.
Yes.
It starts happening, and that's what it's the give and take of the real world.
It is the give and take of the real world, and I guess the worry becomes, I don't think you want the deepest pockets and the loudest voices always calling the shots. The problem is the Supreme Court called Citizens United free speech. You're allowed to petition your government, and you're also allowed, i.e. lobby, and you're also allowed to give money to causes that you believe in. So it's a very sticky thing. So in principle, I agree with it, but at the same time, I believe it's caused a lot of problems.
Well, see, I've always believed in, to cut you off here, sorry, but for a second, but I've always believed in lobbying's fine as long as it's out in the open. So you know who's lobbying and you can see it, and then you can see the favors being given, right? If you can see that, if it's behind closed doors, that's when you go, I don't know who they're paying the favors back to. But when it's out in the open, if it were all out in the open, you go, well, it's obvious what they're doing here, and that's why they hide it all. So,
but James Madison, I think it was James Madison, said that special interests will always be a factor in government, but they will cancel each other out, right? My worry is that there are two things I'm worried about. One is that as wealth becomes more consolidated, it becomes easier for smaller groups of people to influence the way politicians vote. And they will invariably vote for that particular donor's interests more than you and I, because we're just not involved in politics. We're not giving money. We're not consequential. And the other thing I'm very worried about is the fact that there are very few people controlling the information highways. YouTube has enormous power, and they are censoring, maybe sometimes or most of the time for the best, but it's a very sticky and dangerous thing when Facebook and YouTube, where millions, hundreds of millions of us get our information, and sometimes only information from that, when they are deciding that certain things are for our eyes and other things are detrimental. That's what I worry about, because it's not that these people are bad. They're responsible and they're probably good people, but it's impossible not to be biased as a human being. I am, we all are. And you're going to invariably put your stamp on what we are allowed to see, if that's the case. So it raises the question, is everything allowed? What happened was YouTube said, look, these very slick groups, including these Russians, are putting on these very elaborate, convincing videos that vaccines of all kinds are dangerous for your children. And they were not rooted in science. They were malicious. They were being done by Russians and some other people who had an interest in this. And it just was, and other things like vitamin C and turmeric are very good for COVID and keep COVID at bay, and so does vitamin D3. Well, that's not sound medical advice. That advice is, and so YouTube said, this is dangerous. People are believing this and we have to do something. I understand. So I don't know what I would do about the problem, but it is a problem. And so those are the two things I worry about: special interests and who is controlling the information highway. The S&P 500, the Dow, you can't, 5 companies, Facebook, Google, Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon, they control, they are essentially, they probably hire very few people in relation to the population of the United States, but they control half the pie. They make up a huge portion of our economy. If you were to look at a graph, if you were to look at a stock market or the S&P 500, the rest, everybody else has a tiny sliver of it. So wealth is being concentrated in very few hands, and that's good, that's bad, that's both, but it is a changing world, and we have to figure out what that means and how to deal with it. These are very important issues, and if you don't get involved with them, they're going to get involved in you. And the last thing I'd say is that it's not far-fetched to think that China or some other country, but let's use China as an example since it's been in the headlines, invests its fair share in these companies and its subsidiaries, and maybe has some undue influence. YouTube won't allow you to say anything bad about the WHO, from what I understand. And the WHO has been, China has a lot of influence on them. So these are things, this is not conspiracy. This is just stuff that people are talking about that I've kind of been like, wow, this is scary stuff. I'm not sure what to do about it.
Well, I know a few people that have been shadow banned on Twitter just for, in fact, Dennis Miller, who was on this show months ago,
I love Dennis.
We tweeted out something and with a video, and it didn't show up. Like, he tagged me and it didn't show up in any of my mentions or anything like that. I texted one of his people and said, what's going on? And they're like, it's a thing called shadow banning. I'm like, I know it. I've just never actually seen it in action before. And I'm like, that's Dennis Miller. That's kind of crazy. I mean, I could see Alex Jones being shadow banned because there's some danger there. But it's Dennis Miller. It's even though he's got a point of view and he's coming from a further right, although somewhat more of a libertarian view than far right conservative. It's joking. That's
exactly right.
And having fun, and that's the thing that scares me. You were at my house years ago. You did a portrait of yourself for me, and it was incredible. But we were talking, I don't know how far you get into like some of these little political things, but we were on the same page on a lot of stuff. And you were just talking about how it's weird when people start, like you're doing now, people start making decisions on, in terms of mental illness. Where's mental illness? Where do you start to define that line? And if it goes to something, if you can draw along political lines, you can start saying, let's use guns as an issue. Somebody will say, oh, well, you're mentally ill. You can't get a gun. Well, who's defining what mentally ill is at that point?
That's right.
There are some that are very easy to figure out, but there are some that are like, I think you just don't like my politics on this. And
that's why I go back to the Constitution. That's why I go back to the Constitution with that stuff. The Founding Fathers were very aware of how flawed we all are as human beings. That's what the genius of that document was. My God, I mean, the idea that, none of us, I think of myself as a good person. I can talk to you about, the Constitution. If you put me in charge of the world, I would try to make it in my own image. I'd have all my points of view, and I'd be wrong. One of the good things about being 53, you look so much younger, but one of the good things about being 53 is that you realize you've been wrong way more than you've been right,
Well, then why do we always say expect the politicians to be better than us if we are more wrong than we are right?
Well, we shouldn't. We shouldn't expect the politicians to be better than us. But that is where checks and balances come in. That's where the First Amendment comes in. That's where the Bill of Rights comes in. Precisely because human beings are flawed. Precisely because reason, rationality, and mathematics will not get you out of the woods every single time. In fact, it might get you deeper into the woods. Reason, rationality, mathematics, clear-headed thinking has gotten us into things like eugenics. I mean, they have. There are ways you can make a reasoned argument for getting rid of people who drain our resources, as it has been done in history. Like, I don't know, people who aren't as, quote unquote, as intelligent, all this bullshit. There was some white supremacist who was talking about weighing brains, and there was a difference in the weight of different races and their brains. You can get into this crazy mathematics that justifies any kind of evil. So we have to be very careful of that.
Like, to me, the perfect example of that, the reason the Constitution, like, you can't trust the masses to understand nuance. So they did a pretty cut and dry kind of thing. And it's on display today, especially here in Arizona when we've reopened this COVID thing, where everybody's like, why is the government handling this so poorly? And then no matter Democrat or Republican, armed us with information and said, wash your hands, stay distant, wear a mask, do this, just help us out, do these things. The day society opened, we piled back up into big balls at bars and restaurants and said, why are they doing such a bad job? Because you're right, we do everything in our own way. Like, I'm fine, so it's fine. And instead of thinking of the masses or of the group, we're like, why isn't anyone fixing this? And of course, government, like I always say, people lean on government way too much to solve all their problems because we're not willing to lift a finger. All we're being asked to do for 2 months is nothing.
Yeah. Nothing
was what they asked us to do. And that was out of the question.
Americans have always been that way. Americans have always been, Americans, remember, I think it was when John Adams and Jefferson, the debate, in the biggest debate, I think, in that presidential. I'm sorry if any historians are listening, because I have a lot of flaws in holes in my. But I think one of the larger debates was, should we have a standing army? The founding fathers, the American people, were very wary of a standing army because historically a charismatic leader would take control of that standing army and impose martial law and dictatorship and everything else. Americans have always been very wary, and rightly so, of any kind of central overreaching authority, which is why we have something called executive overreach, and why it's challenged in the Supreme Court when that happens, in the state Supreme Court, and finally in the federal Supreme Court. So these are kind of important things. But keep in mind that this country, this incredible experiment, was founded on a very interesting principle. This constitutional scholar was talking about this. I can't remember his name, and he said that all men are created equal, and what is it, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Somebody finish that sentence. I'm having a brain fart. I'm old.
I'm going to make it right.
And have the right to certain inalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Think about this. We are entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Not happiness, but the pursuit of happiness. Think about how general that is. Think about how much leeway the founding fathers gave to the everyday man. By the way, except unless you were black or Malaysian or Indian or anybody else besides white. So I understand, guys. I'm in context, though. We use that now for all races, thank God. But life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that's a very general thing. You have the right to life, you have the right to liberty, and you have the right to pursue happiness any way you want, provided you're not stepping on other people's rights. So I've always thought that was amazing.
It's self-evident. I mean,
It's
part of that
self-evident.
is self-evident. It's what you know to be right.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. Yeah.
Yeah, we think these things are unquestionably true without saying them, but here they are anyway, because deep down they knew, you know what's right and wrong, but we still have to hold your hand through it. And I don't see like Facebook, like everybody's always worried. This has just recently changed for me in the last probably 2 weeks, is that I started thinking about something. Dennis Miller actually, again, had a joke a long time ago when he's like, global warming is something we need to look into, climate change and all that. And he said, but I don't like that we're basing it off of climate from 100 years ago, where Jed would go out to his barn and say, here's how much it rained and here's the temperature with the equipment he had. And I always tell people this when they say, oh, it's the toughest time to be a child, the internet's that. It's tough if we were kids because we don't get it. That's all they know. So the information that comes in, Facebook can't monitor and all that other stuff is the same as idiot next door on the farm in Kansas wandering over telling you what he heard from his neighbor who heard from his neighbor. That's how information used to get to people.
That's right.
So we've never had a quality information system. It's just now everyone's got a bullhorn. A lot of people are wrong, and nobody really knows what the truth is because they scream out what they want it to be. So nobody's listening, and that's never been different.
You just hit something,
that's
though.
Interesting, yeah.
You just hit something there that you said, it used to be the telephone game, right? Rumor, you know, something would get passed down. It would change. Now you can do it on the internet and we can just see it. So it's always happened.
It's just more and it's faster now.
Misinformation has always been out there. It's just at light speed now. That's the big difference.
That's the Robert Evans quote I love. There's your side of the story. There are three sides to every story: your side, my side, and the truth. And nobody's lying. You know, we all see the world the way we see the world. So I do think one of the things that Rogan and I used to, we'd do these podcasts back in the day, and we would pontificate, and both Joe and I back in the day had a lot of opinions. And then what would happen was somebody who knew better would correct us. And because they had something called Google, and they go, whatever the fuck you were saying is wrong. And we were like, and Joe and I were like, we have to be more careful with what we say now, dude. Because like there are people listening and they let you know. It's embarrassing.
That's good that they do.
It's great.
You know, they send you on the right track. And if you
don't you hate it though when you're in the middle of a conversation with somebody who doesn't have an opinion or a thought and they think you're wrong and then they go like this and they start to look what their thoughts are and then they start to say, no, you were wrong. I hate being told I'm wrong by somebody that wasn't sure and then if you could imagine in the 70s at a dinner party if your parents were talking, oh my God.
Yeah, quiet. Hold on. I thought he was going all the way.
It's
happening. No, I'm not doing it right.
He likes when I speak. No, but if you could, like, let's say we're all at a dinner and it's 1980 and I say something and Frank gets up and goes, no, and grabs an encyclopedia and starts thumbing through to make sure what I said. You're like, what an asshole.
Yeah,
we do it now and it's totally okay to be like, no, I'm out to get you and I'm going to do it immediately. But before it was like, yeah, you just take Uncle Joe with a grain of salt. Maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong. It doesn't affect me. I got my own shit. But for some reason now it affects everybody if the guy at the table says something that's wrong.
That's right. That's right.
I thought the Citizens United thing was interesting because, you know, McConnell is the one who was pushing that through. That he made his oats, basically. That was his first big thing that he was pushing through. And it was, a lot of people thought the Koch brothers, he was kind of trying to protect them because they wanted to put a bunch of money in. And now there's a lot of talk there's one person that could upend the election the other direction this time, and that's Bloomberg, because Bloomberg has the media opportunities, he has social media, and he also has billions of dollars to throw, which he will do if he wants to, because he hates Trump that much. So it's interesting that it started with the right wing, and now it could be impacted by the left. It just,
Yeah,
the
that's right.
pendulum, you've
It's
got to be
swinging.
careful.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. You don't know what the blowback on these things is.
Right.
But I do think also what John was saying is we no longer even agree on the sources. If the
Right.
sources of our information are legit, you know, it's like when I listen to CNN, they're so clearly left wing, and when I listen to Fox, they're so clearly right wing. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard, and I'm not kidding. I make a point to listen to both of them because I love it. But Tucker Carlson and Hannity, I don't think they've ever said anything bad about Trump. I really don't. I don't think they've actually ever said anything bad about him. And conversely, I don't think CNN, Don Lemon and Joe Scarborough and them, I don't know who is, I think they might be on CNN, but I've never heard them say anything good. So it's really interesting. It's a really strange time where I don't know where to get my objective news. It ain't the New York Times anymore. It's not the Washington Post. I mean, I suppose the Wall Street Journal is a little more responsible for now. It's really fascinating, man.
Well,
So,
it's because
so where do we
it's
look?
not easy, Brian.
Yeah.
Everything's complicated and layered. And if you go
Yeah.
back, I met this, I couldn't remember his name, but he was at Kansas State and he had Obama's ear, but he was a conservative professor. And I said something about where money was going and you know, tax money and stuff like that. And he started pointing out, he goes, well, this happened because of A. And then if you go back, well, that was the Democrats who did this. But if you go back, the Democrats did this because the Republicans did this. And they did this because, and it just kept going. It was a fight in between them,
Yes.
which is exactly what you're talking about now, which is still, they're just playing games the whole time and playing politics and not really solving the problems. A lot of times they just put a Band-Aid on.
Yes, we always forget that we're trying to solve a problem and not to be married to your ideas. And that's important. Don't
Yeah.
be married to your ideas. You know, there are ideas on the left. You may be on the right, but there are ideas on the left that might just work. And conversely, you know, and vice versa. So that's a really good point is, you know, kind of realizing that there are different ways to solve this problem, but we're trying to solve a problem,
When did
But the
you,
big-
you know?
well, I was just going to say, when did you get sparked into so much political reading, which it's obvious you've done quite a bit of?
Well, yeah, my father, I've always been this way.
and your dad,
I was reading Milton Friedman when I was 18 years old. I was reading Ayn Rand. I was reading Charles Murray. I was reading all kinds of different economists. I read Kissinger's books and Nixon's books. I was a history major, you know. I've always been interested in philosophy and history
and
and politics.
your father, international banker or something? I remember looking at something.
My father was a banker, and yes, but I grew up all over the world, and I grew up in a lot of these quote unquote socialist utopias. When you live in Pakistan and you live in India and you live in Lebanon and you live in Saudi Arabia and you live in, I was born in the Philippines. I don't remember it. I was too young, but I was moved. And in the process, I went to communist China in 1985. I went to communist Russia in 1989. I remember being 18 years old or 17 in Russia when I saw what it was really like when people couldn't say anything about their government. I shot a movie in China recently, 2 years ago, because I'm very talented. But that's not the point. But also, one of the things that they talk about is you're not allowed to say anything about the government. And if you do say anything critical about the government, we will send you back home. And you do a retinal scan and a fingerprint at the airport. You know, so I grew up, you know, in these countries. I saw real poverty in Africa, in Yemen, in countries that most people weren't going to in the 70s and in the early 80s. I went back to Lebanon in 1981 and saw my childhood home that was no longer there. I saw what civil war had done to that country. So, you know, you're a kid, you start to realize that I'm very lucky, and I'm very lucky because I'm an American. Yeah. And I'm very lucky because what does that mean? How come? Why America? Why do I feel safe in America? And why did I watch this terrible poverty, shanty towns as far as the eye can see, i.e. South Africa still going on, et cetera, et cetera. Well, why did I get so lucky? Why have I never gone hungry for one day? Why does my country make me feel safe? And then you start to kind of, you start to investigate that. It comes out of guilt and, by the way, compassion. You know, these. So the wonderful saying, I've been using it a lot lately. If you don't get involved with politics, politics will get involved with you. And pick up a history book if you think I'm lying about that. And you better get involved in local politics too, because things change around you before you know what the hell's going on.
I said that same conversation with my in-laws this weekend. They can bitch and cry about Trump and whoever's president all they want. They don't even know who their local representative is. So if you're not involved in
that's what matters.
That's all that matters. They can change it on you in a second, and all they have to do is post a note, which is insane. What's funny about what you said, though, is having been all over the world, I have a friend who lives here named Jani Dang, and he's one of the lost boys of the Sudan, which is just an unbelievable.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So Jani's been here. He basically, as a 7-year-old or 8-year-old, was the third oldest guy out of 500 to cross the Sudan and then have to cross it again because he went to one side. I think Kenya first. I don't remember if I'm right or wrong on that. It might have been Ethiopia. They said, "You're not coming in here," gaggle of kids. So they had to walk and traverse the entire nation. When they were done, there were 20 left. They had been poverty, death, animal attacks. They, all of them were done.
The desert is not,
But Jani's here now.
Sahara Desert. Yeah.
He's been here since he's 18. Maybe he might have been somewhere between 18 and 23. He's around my age. They're not sure. But I'll go to dinner with Jani and he'll bitch about appetizers. And I told him, do you realize how America spun you on your ass?
That's hilarious.
30 years that he's like, the chicken I got 5 minutes ago has arrived with my main dish. And I'm like, you drank your own piss to get out of
so great.
And
that's hilarious.
But that's how special this actually is. And for us to be petulant teenagers and scream and yell about how awful it is, every time I think of that, I think of how fast it turned a third world, like the fifth world. This guy's way past the worst of the world. And made him someone that goes to Applebee's and has a right to say these fucking potato skins are cold. That's what we do. And we take it for granted to a point that is nauseating. I'm as guilty as anybody else. But
we also, again, and it's important to know why we have the luxury of taking it for granted. The legend goes when Ben Franklin came out of that room after they drafted something called the Constitution in Philadelphia, and he was the oldest guy by far in that room. Everybody else was in their 30s. When they came up with the Constitution, which is just incredible, the legend, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but the woman said, "What did you do in there? What did you?" And he said, "We created a republic, madam, if you can keep it." And it's a great thing to keep in mind that we can lose our republic. Lawrence Lessig, constitutional scholar at Harvard, he wrote a book called Republic Lost. And he talks about what special interests and lobbying has done to this country. It's depressing. You can lose your country before you know it.
I think the fact that we're a republic right now is really important because there are experiments going on with different states opening up at different times and trying different things that if everybody was doing the same thing, we wouldn't know. There are some consequences and it can be both ways. You think staying closed is the right thing to do, but there are people going stir crazy. There's mental illness going on. There's all sorts of stuff.
Children being abused, all that stuff.
Terrible things. And it's life traded out for life. People just, a lot of times what's straight in front of you is the easiest to see, but there are so many other aspects to this. And I think the Republic even ties in with a lot of the stuff you were talking about before too. I don't know. It's one thing I really wanted to get in here with you was, so you're traveling all over the world. Is your dad a serious guy? Because I know in your act, he's amazing. He's
amazing. He's a man. No, my dad's an Irish kid from Wisconsin who was a Marine. He's Brown Deer.
Oh, sure,
Milwaukee.
Right. I-43.
There you go. And he's just a big old Irish, 6'4", and just grew up drinking milk and fucking eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. He's just too big. He's just a big giant man.
In shape like you? Like that kind of?
No, nobody's in shape like me, as you know. Come on.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I suppose
Sorry.
if you were to take a cheetah and stretch human skin over it. But anyway, no. I mean, very few people have my fast twitch muscle and my explosivity. Is that a word? No, he's not in shape, but he's way stronger than me. I wouldn't want to tussle with him. Although he's going to be 80 in a couple of days now.
You still don't want to fight your dad at 80. So
I don't think so. Yeah.
Have you scrapped with your dad? My dad's 72, and goofing around, he picked me up off the ground to tell me it wasn't going to happen. So
you probably come from big Germanic or Polish stock. You're
Swedish.
You're Swedish, of course. What the fuck? You're Swedish. Yeah, look at that goddamn nose and those eyes that are as blue as the Aegean. I get lost in them every time I look at you. And I'll tell you something else, John. I don't mind saying it out loud. I'm gay today. Every time I look at your goddamn face, I want to fuck guys. Yeah, I said it.
And read the Constitution.
I want to read the Constitution while I do it because I'm an American gay.
I think my pursuit of happiness might lie in your ass.
That's right.
I just created a new document. The Constitution.
Right. John, do me a favor. Make like a baboon and present.
Present to me.
Because the alpha's in the room. I'll never forget when you said that. One of the greatest things ever.
I had one line, and Brian, he liked it so much, he makes me present every time.
Every single fucking time.
We were talking about baboons presenting.
Now, you guys, I've got...
Hold on. Before...
Yeah.
What were you going to say there? Before I
just got to go. I got to go hit it hard. Today's leg day with Blue Dorada.
I just want to get to this. How do you go from traveling around the world? You're seeing all this difficult stuff, how other people are living, socialist, communist types of lives. Your dad's a pretty serious guy. How do you become a comedian, actor? How does that happen?
I think because I was moved every 2 years, every year to a different country, to a different school, to a different set of kids. And the way you make friends right quick is you learn how to make people laugh. You learn human being, you learn how to communicate. What I learned from a very early age is that everybody is ashamed of something and very proud of something. And I became very good at identifying very quickly what they were ashamed of and what they were proud of. And I would protect them from what they were ashamed of and highlight what they were proud of. And you want to be around people like that. And then I realized that I could also make them laugh. If I made them laugh, they liked me even more. And then I was an okay athlete, so at least I wasn't the last kid picked on the team. So whenever people ask me, Brian, why are you so funny and athletic? That's why, bro. That's why. And I go, because I love you. Because I love you. That's what I say. Yeah. And then they go, well, how do you explain that fucking dick? And I go, this little old dead carp? And they go, that thing ain't dead. That thing is 10 hut as it gets. And I go, whoops, you better fucking present. And then that's how my lovemaking goes. So
they're going to change that.
Only with guys.
They're going to change that whole proverb about the fisherman teach a man to fish. You don't need to. Just give him the carp.
That's right. Give him this fucking carp. Having a bad day, take a bite of carp.
When's the last
4?
Feed a family of 4. Feed a family of 12. Just multiples of 4.
Hey, don't fight. There's plenty of carp to go around.
When's the last time you had sugar? That's my other question for you.
Yeah, well, I'm not a communist, so I don't know. I don't even understand that fucking question. Sugar? What's that?
I just heard you talking about that. I eat no sugar, no carbs, and I want to kill the fat people. So now I'm dead.
No, bro. I know that was my stupid video. I eat carbs. I mean, I eat carbs as long as they're green and they grow from the ground. I'm kidding.
Are you saying carps? You're eating carps?
I eat carbs and carbs.
Yeah, I see.
I meant carbs.
I'll feed you a carp.
I'll feed you a carp. Yeah. So I got that going for me. I'm going to videotape my workout for you guys. That's the good news. And
can we use that to promote this?
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. And I apologize for your astonishment at how deep I squat, how deep I squat. My ankle mobility is off the fucking charts, and I know that's always been a big thing for you, Frank. I got crazy ankle mobility.
Yeah, it's where I personally struggle. So it's really, I like.
You know what? Well, you'll take my workshop. I'll work you through it. I'll secure your hips, and we're gonna get you moving right quick. We're gonna get some mobility in that body, and it's gonna be real good, real good. And I'm gonna smell like rawhide and steel cable, because that's what I'm made of. You son of a bitch.
Bryan Callen, everybody.
And you, state champion tennis player, you will have a boner.
I've had it the whole time.
Thank God.
Yeah,
Thank God.
please.
This thing could cut a diamond.
I'm thinking of you in a Greco-Roman outfit, like wrestling.
Yep.
I went to University of Iowa, so I can imagine it. I lived with those wrestlers. Dan Gable was hitting on my wife in college.
Wow. I went to Dan Gable's wrestling camp when I was a junior in high school, which is where I got these traps in this fucking neck.
Yeah.
I fucked him.
You fucking Viking.
Animal.
You could not do that with.
Animal.
I fed Johnny carp.
He didn't have a choice.
He didn't have a choice. Johnny probably owns a longboat. Careful. He'll come fucking sailing in. If you're landlocked, he'll wheel that thing in with his horned helmet, and he'll give you a horn. Guys, I think we covered a lot of ground, huh?
Yeah, you did much more than I even expected, and it was fantastic.
Always.
Thank you. I love you guys.
You knew that was going to happen, though, didn't you?
Look, I got a couple tricks up my sleeve. A man can't read everything and then pull out couple diamonds of knowledge, spread the wealth a little bit. I'm the bad guy now because everybody learned a shitload in an hour.
Get back here. Hurry up. Get out of the house. Get over here.
Yeah.
I miss you guys. I promise I will.
Done.
You're the best.
Thank you, Bryan.
loves
You
you.
guys are. God bless you guys. God fucking bless America. God bless the rest of everything else. All right. I love you.
Out.
Beautiful. Yeah. He's everything you want Bryan Callen to be.
Oh, yeah. I like that he brings so much information and is so passionate about it.
Did I tell you the story about how the end of our, like last year, you were part of our the radio show's Happy Ending show with Callen and Adam Ray and you, and did a full night, just ridiculous night. Everybody was fantastic.
And D'Elia showed up to surprise.
Oh, Chris D'Elia was there. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
It was just an amazing night. So I may have said this already. If I have, stop me. But we went out, Callen and I, after the show with Adam Ray and a bunch of people. And there's this girl with Bryan. I don't know if he's all that public. I know he's public that he's divorced now, but I don't know that he was getting too into it at the time, but everybody there knew. And there was this girl with him, and he was getting kind of like, it seemed like maybe they were connecting. And then at the end of the night at 2 a.m. in downtown Phoenix, there's absolutely nobody out. It's December 21st. And she's with him like it's a go. He hasn't done anything. He turns out we're all waiting for an Uber. And he goes, Johnny, it's been great. I'll talk to you later. Have a nice Adam Ray. Fantastic stuff. And he grabs this girl by the face and goes, you're fantastic. And he leaves. And she's there in the middle of a major city alone with me and Adam Ray. And we're like, what do we do with her? And she just kind of slunk behind this electrical box and got herself an Uber. And I'm like, God, this is bad. I can't, like, if her Uber never comes, we're just leaving this girl in the 5th largest city in America by herself, just alone. And he did the Fredo, grabbed her by the cheeks. You're fantastic. Vapor. And I'm like, that's the coolest exit I've ever seen. And she's okay with it.
Do you think he plans that stuff, or you think it just happens and he impulse and he goes?
I can't think that he planned it, but I think in his head he's like, I got to get out of this. I got to get out of this. I got to get out. And that just happened. He just calendar on the way out.
Here's my theory.
Yeah.
He's 53. Okay. But he's in amazing shape. He eats perfectly. He's flexible. But at 2 a.m, he's still 53. And he's like, this is a lot more work ahead. Yeah. I don't know if I've got it in me. Good night.
Is a 15-minute car ride worth a 15-minute wrong
Yeah.
with her. I got to get rid of her
53.
now. I'm going right
Yeah,
to bed.
53. I don't know.
Yeah, you may be right.
I don't know.
Yeah, me and Adam ran for our lives, and that's the chivalry in America in 2020. It's like, let's get out of here before she starts asking us for stuff. And we just left. We didn't even give her a "you're fantastic." We just ran away.
All right. Well, I'm still trying to get over the Walton hangover. So
yeah, I still don't. I've been trying to explain that to people, and they like everybody wants to place human characteristics on it when I'm like, no, you don't understand. He just started a story. And they're like, so you asked him one question? I'm like, no, he just started talking. and you play a clip of it, and it's like, I can't explain to you what that is and how we got there because none of it makes sense. It's still the strangest hour of not interview in my life.
People are loving it. That's the thing, which is, I'm sure some people think it's the weirdest, most terrible thing in the world.
I kind of am on the train.
Well, I can't listen to it.
No,
I tried.
It's crazy. Well, because we lived it, Scott. You can't go back to Titanic.
Yeah, that's true. And I love him. I mean, I love him, and I respect him as a basketball player. I mean, he's either the best college basketball player ever or Jabbar. I mean, they're it. So I have so much respect for him. I grew up a Celtics fan. I love Larry Bird. He loves Larry Bird. But I wanted to get out of there during the whole thing.
You were worried about
I wanted it to keep going. I
know you did, Frank. You're different. I couldn't.
That's me. I was the same. I couldn't believe what was happening. I wasn't sure if it was good, and I never wanted it to end. It was.
What you guys don't know is I put a note at the beginning of it saying that it doesn't make sense. I prefaced the recording, and John and I had talked about this a little bit, or quite a bit. And we left it completely unedited, and I prefaced it with, you just have to let go that of your preconceived notion of what a podcast should be. That if you just let it go and understand this is Bill Walton being Bill Walton, and we can't stop him, you can enjoy this at an unbelievable level. Now, if you can't put that aside, it's not going to make sense. And it was also, I kind of gave the let people know, hey, this isn't what a normal podcast is, because it isn't. It's not. But
it had no boundaries and parameters as far as just the squares we're in on the Zoom. That's as far as the boundaries were. I still don't know that I could have a conversation like that and not understand. But I'm with you, Frank. I didn't want it to end, and I couldn't tell you why that is, because it was an experience. It's like seeing a new color. He was a human acid trip.
That's perfect.
I told you it was like the movie Joker.
Yeah,
because you watch it and you're like, this is incredibly well done. I don't need to see this again.
Yeah, I never want to watch this a second time, because why? But it was insane. But yeah, people have to listen to that with a grain of salt, going, look, the guys couldn't control this. Just sit back and watch something you've never seen before. It was weird, but I loved it and didn't get it at the same time.
Yeah, I've got people saying things like 30 minutes in and I need my third tissue. They're
it's like a Stanley Kubrick movie. Like somewhere in there, you're like, what am I watching? And I love it.
Clockwork Orange.
I don't know if this is an actual story or not, but I love it.
Clockwork Carrot Top.
Well, Dave Pasch coming in and basically saying, this is him. This is how he is all the time. Yeah. That's what made it even more special to me, because you knew it wasn't an act then.
Yeah.
Because we're not totally sure, does he turn that on? Does he turn it off? And Dave's just shaking his head. And there seemed to be.
Did you guys get any feeling in the middle of it? You're like, oh my God, did we break him? Is this never going to end? Yeah. Is this something we just discovered? Is this that moment? Is he broken? And Pasch is like, nope, totally normal. I'm like, oh, okay, good.
Well, no, that was what I, because I would worried a little bit that I thought, hey, this guy's something's wrong, and there is, but it's in the perfect way possible. But
there is.
With Pasch saying, no, this is just what you get. I was like, okay, then I have no problem putting it out there as much as possible. So,
has he done any other podcasts like this? Does anybody know?
No, nobody will let him on that long. They won't.
Right.
Yeah, nobody. But part of it is the fact that we can do the impressions and we talk about him a lot. That helps in that type of situation, and you get more out of it. If he had ever stopped, somebody else texted me, 30 minutes of extreme action. Would you please stop interrupting him?
It was our fault. And here's the funny part.
That was so good.
I think, Frank, you and I had an idea of how we're going to do this little dance with the three Waltons. and realized very quickly that none of that was going to transpire. And it was up to him. We had no bearing on how we could interject a Walton in there, because you could never be more Walton than him.
No, and there was no pause, first of all. No. But there are moments I saw on one of the promotional things I put out that Bill, when you started talking and doing the Bill Walton the first time, he didn't know where it was coming from because my mouth wasn't moving. And I had told him multiple times, you also did it. The setup was that you did a Bill Walton impression, and he's still just going, you can see in his head going, where is that coming from?
I would venture to guess that Bill is standing quietly occasionally hearing Bill Walton talk and wondering where it's coming from every day.
I think there was a piece of that he did. Like, he didn't know if it was actually us or him talking.
Am I thinking this, or is that a guy? Anyway, back to the dragon.
The pterodactyl dragon. We should have been angel and devil on his shoulder.
Oh,
we were.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of.
I don't think they can get a word in.
No.
The angel and the devil, like, just let him go. It's pointless.
All right. Well, thanks for being a part of getting Callen involved here, John, because
easy peasy.
Yeah, he was. That was a treat. And I did not expect to get. I guess I should have, because he's an intelligent guy, and then
he's fun to talk to, like, just generally as a friend. Like, I haven't hung out with him a lot, but every time I have, it's like, man, it's fun because it's always on a surface level. But if you want to talk about stuff, he's no nonsense. If he doesn't know, he says so. If he does, he's not going to bullshit with you. And he's never like, it's never a talk down. The guy's, he's very smart.
That's why I like talking actual politics with him. I don't know how much, I didn't want to get into anything too much here because I don't know how far he goes, although he's a Rogan guy. So they usually will be pretty forthright with stuff. But one of the, he's kind of like me, I think, kind of like all of us, is like somewhere in the middle and just looking for honesty and truth from politicians and not finding a lot of that. Yeah. And he articulates well and has enough knowledge that you learn a little something from him. In that way, kind of like, Dennis Miller, where you're going, geez, you knew more on that subject than I'd expected. And you're able to turn it into comedy at points. So that's pretty cool.
And don't forget about my cock.
That was maybe
that juxtaposition that was constantly going on, I bet has never been done anywhere else. And I'm thinking of Prince, where Prince would talk about sex, and then in the same song he'd be talking about God. And it was always like, what is going on here? This is so weird. I don't even know if it's right. And Bryan Callen is like this Harvard scholar who also loves to be Andrew Dice Clay at the same time. It was this beautiful thing.
All right, guys. Well, I'll talk to you next time. But until then, you were fantastic.
Fantastic. Goodbye now.
Goodbye now.